guys, in this segment we're going to focus on astrology and why it is being used completely wrong and why it is actually becoming a toxic thing for people. So first off, I want to start off by saying I have been an astrologer for 11 years now. I have been reading charts for people for at least 5 of those years, and astrology has been a huge part of my spiritual journey. However, along the way, there have been some learning curves for me. So for one, I've always kind of felt like there was something a little bit off about astrology. Like my chart didn't quite feel like me, okay? There were parts of it that did and the parts that didn't. When I would consult another astrologer, they would say, oh, that's just because this sign is actually connected over here in opposition with Pluto. So that's why you act like this and not like this. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense, right? So what I have learned in life is that the universe is actually pretty simple, right? It has simple formulas to things. So I noticed that astrology was something that was really complex. So I boggled my brain for literally years trying to figure this out. And then one day I'm just sitting there in the bathtub. I'm like 8 months pregnant with my daughter. And all of a sudden it just hit me. I was like, wait a minute. How is it possible that all the constellations are the same size? That doesn't make any sense because nothing is created exactly the same in the universe. It doesn't make any sense. So then, of course, I started to do some research and I was like, oh my gosh, turns out all of the constellations are different sizes. Then I started to remember a while back, they started talking about there was this 13th sign. And at the time I looked at it, I'm like, that changes my sign from Gemini to Taurus. I'm not a Taurus. So I completely omitted it. I completely dismissed it and I didn't want anything to do with it. Typical Taurus thing to do. I am in fact a Taurus, not a Gemini. So I finally started to go back and look at it. I'm like, well, let me put a little thought into this. And I started to look at that there was a 13th sign. Now we have constellations that are different sizes. And I learned one more thing. The mainstream astrology systems are actually going off the seasons, not the actual placement of the sun. So when you think that your sun sign is in Aries, it is very likely the sign behind in Pisces. So there's also variable to that when we get to the end of the year. So the sun, for example, spends about 42 days, give or take, in Virgo and about 6 to 8 days, give or take, in Scorpio, right? So you figure that. And you have to realize that the calculation of our zodiac charts are really, really wrong. And so then I went back and I was like, okay, well, how come this has been resonating with me for so long on so many fronts? And I started to realize, well, for my chart specifically, my sun was initially supposed to be in Gemini, but my actual placement is a Taurus, but my Mercury is in Gemini. And that makes sense because when I'd read all the things about a Gemini, I'd be like, you love to talk, you're really expressive, you never stop, like all of those things, right? And you're really into being intellectual and learning about new things. I'm like, yeah, that's totally me. Well, that's where my Mercury's at. So of course that's how I express myself because Mercury is the planet of expression. It's the way that we think, and then it's the way that we communicate. So I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Then I started to notice that the way the charts are read by people and interpreted by people is so like black or white. Like it's so negative or positive. It's so if you have this placement, it's terrible. And if you have this placement, it's great. And you're really lucky and you're going to be rich. And it's all these things about, am I going to be rich? Am I going to be famous? Am I going to be successful? Am I going to jail? Like all of these crazy things. It's like, how could the stars have anything to do with that if we have all this free will, right? It doesn't make any sense. So then I started to really look at it and I was like, wait a minute. I started to come up with this understanding that the stars really just show us our energy. It's like a blueprint of our own energy and how we use that energy and which level of vibration we are vibing with that energy depicts how it's going to manifest in our lives. So for example, Aries is always seen as the war horse and the very selfish sign and all of those things. But Aries, that's Aries low vibration. Aries high vibration is a very empowering, very accomplished and very, self-encouraging individual, like very, very much self-driven, a doer. That's Aries, right? So those are all great things. So when I first started looking at my chart and I realized, of course, my new way of viewing the chart, I realized, oh my God, my moon is in Aries. And I'm like, that actually fits me very well. And then I started Googling all these things and it's like, oh, you're gonna be a terrible mom. You're gonna abuse your kids. You're gonna do all these things. And I was like, oh my God, I'm doomed because the stars say it. that's actual BS, because I don't operate out of low vibrational Aries. There are many times in my life where I have, and my responses to things have been very aggressive because I'm very passionate in my heart, right? But for the most part, over time, and especially a lot before becoming a parent, I have learned how to channel my aggression and to pull it out when necessary, and to figure out what's a trigger and figure out what's me protecting me and all of those things. So I'm pretty comfortable with my Aries in the moon, right? So as a mother, I find how it plays out for me. I empower the heck out of my kids, and I empower them to be independent, right? And so it's funny when I look at all of their charts, all of them have a moon in Leo or a moon in Taurus, right? So my daughter has a moon in Taurus, and she's the kid that I'm a lot more, she requires a lot more of my physical touch, physical attention, all that kind of stuff. My other two are extremely independent. So the things that they got from me is the independence and the creativity that I push onto them. And it's really interesting when I connect my kids' charts with my charts. Now, another really, really interesting part about this is what I've been able to do with my method of reading charts. So I stopped focusing on all the BS. I stopped focusing on all the, am I gonna be rich? Am I gonna be famous? Do I have the makings for this? Do I have the makings for that? And I started focusing on life path. I started focusing on Saturn. I started focusing a lot on the outer planets, Pluto, my best friend. And I started to really use the charts to help people see the sides of them that they have a really hard time seeing, right? Because those are our outer planets, right? They're more hidden to us. And what I found was extremely intense and extremely accurate for people. And I've been able to use this system to partially intuitively, partially out of knowledge of reading the charts, I've been able to use this system to help people to pull out their inner traumas, help them to understand them, and help them to release and heal themselves from them. I've been able to help them understand their blockages. I've been able to help them understand their strengths. I've been able to help them see themselves without these views, these lenses that everyone else is seeing them through, and telling them that that's who they are. And it's been such an amazing tool, and it's become a big part of my shadow work sessions. It's become a big part of shadow healing, not just for me, but for my clients as well. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of controversy about this. That's okay. I am open to questions. I am open to it. And if anybody here is interested in getting a reading by me in this way, I highly encourage you to go to my website, book a service, and see what it's all about. I promise you will not be disappointed, as long as you're coming with the understanding that we're gonna do some healing. So if you guys are interested in that, check the link below. I have attached that there. If you guys have any questions about anything I'm saying, please type them below, let me know. Subscribe if you wanna see more. Hit the like button if you like it. Feel free to reach out to me. I love answering questions about this kind of stuff. This is such a passion for me, and it's about time that I get on here and start sharing it, and I'm most definitely gonna be making more of these videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.